Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Perry. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Will Smith's right hand's favorite football podcast. I'm your host, Joe Perry. Like I said, I'm joined once again by my illustrious co-host, Mike Fair. How's it going, Mike?
Oh, it's going, Joe. What's up, guys? Dude, I'm so pumped to be back for another episode. Like, you don't even know.
Dude, it's good to be back. Thank you guys for the feedback on our first episode back from our long time off. It was fun to get back into things, fun to talk. Last week was a jam-packed episode, and we managed to fit it all into one episode, but it's definitely slowed down quite a bit from where we were last week and in the last few weeks for sure.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like, there was a point where every 20 minutes we were getting notifications about things going on in the NFL. And now it's like every 2-3 days, like, oh, hey, like the Ravens are looking into signing so-and-so player. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, maybe it'll happen. Like, it's died down quite drastically.
Yeah, we've gone from like being full, like we just had a huge dinner and we're like full to the point where we want to throw up. And now we're searching for scraps. We're like searching through the dumpster. We'll take anything at this point.
Yes, that is for sure, Joe.
Yeah, no, but on today's episode, we still got a fun show for you guys. We're going to go through basically just the news, things that are going on, and then we'll branch off and do a couple other things. Like at the end of the episode, we'll drop some remaining free agents, good fits for them, where we want to see them go. But other than that, we're just going to go over the news. We got a couple contract extensions. We got some coaching news. We had a trade just drop right before we started recording this, and it actually has to do with both of our teams, so that's kind of an exciting place to go, but it might be a little bit of a shorter episode today. We got some plans here going on later, so we can't be in here too long, but we'll try to just make it just as good as last week's long episode. Yeah. How's that sound, Mike?
Oh, I'm in, Joe. I mean, the energy is high today.
Energy is high. I love it. Why don't we start things off just going through the news, and why don't we go with the freshest thing that just happened? And that was my team and your team, the Dolphins for me and the Patriots for you, respectively, just made a trade, which is weird. We don't often see interdivision trades. We don't see teams trading within. Although I feel like the Dolphins and the Patriots trade more than any other division rivals. Like, it feels like it happens fairly often.
Yeah, this is very true. It does blow me away. Like, when I got the notification, of course, we are talking about Devontae Parker. Coming to the Pats. I believe it was Devontae Parker and a 2022 fifth rounder for a 2023 third rounder. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. Parker coming to the Pats. The Dolphins and Pats, even though they are rivals, they do send players back and forth. I believe Wes Welker was one, a big one back then. Not sure. Did Danny Amendola
Danny Amendola did play on both teams, but the Dolphins also, like, not last season. I think the season before, they traded Isaiah Ford, also another receiver, to the Patriots for a bit. I don't think he ended up ever even playing for the Patriots. I think they cut him I don't think so. Pretty quickly, and then he was back with the Dolphins this last season. But they like made a few trades like here and there throughout the drafts and stuff, and obviously Wes Welker getting traded to the Patriots was just a horrible mistake by the Dolphins front office. But Mike, I am curious what your thoughts are. We'll start with you. Get your thoughts on, because your team is the one acquiring a player here. What are your thoughts on the trade, on the player? What were your thoughts when you saw this notification hit?
I'm excited, Joe. I am very excited. Our receiving core, I'm not saying we have the best one in the NFL by any means, but it does help a lot when you get a 6'3", big jump ball type of receiver. Nelson Aguilar is kind of like our deep ball threat. Meanwhile, he's not really a big threat. But this just gets rid of N'Keal Harry, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people are high on N'Keal. Well, I've been pretty low the last 2 years. He's absolutely tanked. He's been one of our wasted draft picks. He's really not tried or shown any progress. So I'm hoping we cut him, which would leave, I think, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, and Kendrick Bourne, who shined last year. So our receiving core, I feel like, just got a lot better. We already have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So I think our offense with the three-headed monster in the backfield and Mac Jones, our second-year quarterback now, I think our offense is looking pretty good. And, we got was it Landon Collins from the Giants in a trade, or we signed him to a deal. We got Malcolm Butler back. Like, the Pats are going to be one of those sneaky teams in the AFC. I'm thinking like a 7 seed, 6 seed. But they could possibly do some damage, and with the draft coming up, I'm pretty excited. But what do you think, Joe? How did this help the Dolphins?
Yeah, I personally hated this trade for the Dolphins. I'm not gonna lie about it. I was not a fan of the Dolphins trading Devontae Parker to the Patriots. I don't think we traded Jerry Rice away or anything. Like, it's not the end of the world. But anytime that you make a division opponent better, I think that's not a great move. And Devontae Parker is a good receiver, Mike. I think you guys are getting a good player. The biggest problem with Devontae Parker is that he can't stay healthy. That's the biggest issue with him. He's got injury issues, and he just can't stay on the field. There's been some rumors about potential maturity issues. Like, he's not like the most mature of guys, and he can kind of take plays off. But honestly, when he's playing and he's healthy and he's motivated, he is a really, really good receiver. And I'm not gonna say anything bad about him in that regard. I do think he's a very talented receiver, and I think he instantly becomes the best receiver on the New England Patriots as of right now. That's my opinion. I think he is a good receiver. I don't understand. Like, I just felt like the Dolphins, could you not have gotten this deal from like any other team? Like, couldn't you have gotten this deal from the New England Patriots? Couldn't you have got? I'm sorry, they did get it from the Patriots, from the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I just don't like. I don't like trading to a division rival.
Yeah, no, I understand that, because if Devontae can stay healthy, I feel like this is going to be one of those trades where Belichick's just like, hey, if he can stay healthy, he is, he's a huge addition to the receiving core. And then we get to, burn the Dolphins twice a year. And if it doesn't pan out, what would we lose? A 2023 third round pick? Like, yeah, it's a pick, but I mean, our drafting, like our draft picks normally are not the best. So I think in his eyes, he was like, you know what, it's kind of like a win-win situation here, because I think the Patriots won this trade by a lot. And I would like to get your take on that. But yeah, I think if he can stay healthy, then our receiving core, if Mac Jones can be as accurate as he was last year, I mean, our receiving core is going to be pretty dangerous, which we needed, because all we had really was a Hunter Henry last year and Kendrick Bourne, and that was basically it.
Yeah, and I think you saying the Patriots won this trade it's a fair point, and I think it's, you can really see it either way, but to me, I can understand sort of why that. Again, I don't understand trading him to the New England Patriots. That part for me makes no sense. But I think what the Dolphins are doing, he's turning 29. He's not young anymore. I do think he's a good receiver. Don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not trying to talk crap. I do think Devontae Parker is a very, very talented receiver, and he has honestly beat up the Patriots at times. I remember a game a few years ago, he really punished Stefan Gilmore, and he's had some good games against J.C. Jackson. He's a big jump ball guy. He can go up and get those contested catches, and I do really like Devontae Parker. The injuries were the most frustrating part, really, for me. But I understand to me, this feels like the Dolphins are loading up for next year's draft. Like, they just traded away another draft pick in this year's draft. They have almost none in this year's draft. But then they got a third round pick in next year's draft. To me, this screams what I think I already talked about this on last week's episode. The Dolphins, to me, and this is my opinion, I think are loading up on next year's assets just in case Tua is not the guy for next season. I think they're loading up to trade for a quarterback, whether that be a veteran guy or whether that be a guy through the draft. To me, that's what it seems like they're doing here. But overall, like, I think a good trade for the Patriots. I think they got better. The Patriots definitely got better. Dolphins probably got worse. Although, I mean, Devontae Parker was probably going to be the third or fourth receiver on this team anyways. But definitely, if he can stay healthy, he'll definitely be a difference maker on that Patriots team.
Joe, I got one more question before we move on to some more news. Will the Patriots allow Devontae Parker to take Julian Edelman's number and wear number 11?
I doubt that. I really doubt that. I don't know if you think they're going to retire the number 11.
I feel like 11, 87, and 12 all need to be retired. They were big, of course, big players in that long run there from 2010 to 2019 or whatever, 2018, whatever it was. So if anything, he'll probably shoot out a text to Edelman and get the number. Yeah. And, to be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if someone's wearing the number right now. And I'm just not thinking about it.
I don't know.
I don't think there was, but I think he'll ask. But I feel like that's going to be a retired number.
Yeah. Well, he wore number 9, I believe, at Louisville. So maybe now that they can do single digit numbers.
Judon, baby. Matthew Judon's
number 9.
Shoot.
Sorry, it's Matthew Judon's
Mr.
number.
Red Sleeves.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot that defenders can wear the single digit numbers now too. So
hey, I'm going to say it. Last year when we talked about the single digit numbers, I hated it. Absolutely love it now.
I think
it's one of the best things the NFL did. So it grew on me.
I loved it too. I think it's a really cool thing. Anyways, we can't talk too much about that. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. But staying on my Miami Dolphins, they did sign a brand new contract for all-pro defensive back Xavien Howard. They promised last year when they restructured his deal that they were going to reassess his contract and likely sign him to a new deal. So they signed him. They just tack 2 years on to what was a 5-year, $75 million contract. They tacked 2 years on it, so now it is a I believe a 5-year, $90 million contract with the most guaranteed money for a defensive back in NFL history. I couldn't find out how much guaranteed money it was. I don't know why. I even looked on Spotrac.
It shows right here, like with $50.7 million. In new money. So I don't know if that's guaranteed.
I saw that number too. I was like, is new money? Does that mean that I had such a hard time? They said most guaranteed by a defensive back ever, but I could not find where it said how much guaranteed. I don't know if that $50 million is his guaranteed money, but anyways, the most guaranteed money for a defensive back in NFL history. I believe he's 28 years old. In 6 years in the NFL, he's got 27 interceptions. He's got 3 Pro Bowls and 1 first-team All-Pro in his 6-year career. And the Dolphins continue to spend big-time money, big guaranteed money this offseason. They brought back Emmanuel Ogbah. They're going to bring back Xavien Howard on a big contract. They brought in Teron Armstead, Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins continue to spend wild in this offseason. To me, listen, this is something they had to get done if they wanted to bring Xavien Howard back. So I'm all for it. I do worry down the road they might have money issues. That part kind of scares me. But Mike, I'll get your thoughts on the Dolphins. It doesn't have to be a whole lot because we got a lot to talk about. But just your overall thoughts on the Dolphins signing Xavien Howard to that new contract.
I hate it because that means their defense is going to get better. And we already lost, like I said, multiple times on this podcast. We've lost to them twice last year. We usually lose to them every year. We play them usually game 1 and game 17 or 18. And it's always with playoff implications, and we usually lose, and it screws us in the playoffs. So I hate it. No, I think it's good for him. It's good seeing the players get money. I know a lot of people I talk to absolutely hate it because they say they just complain until they get money. But I'm like, these guys are out there making the NFL what it is, putting their bodies on the line. So, you expect to get paid. So that's great for him. I know he's a really good defensive player. So I feel like he's going to absolutely help the Dolphins next year for sure. With this new contract instead of opposed to, do you think he would have sat out if they wouldn't have given him an extension?
If they wouldn't have given him this contract, he would have most likely been traded, I think, or he would have sat out until he got traded. That's my assumption. I think he made it quite clear he wanted a new contract going into this year. They already readjusted his contract last year, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, with all the big signings we've seen this offseason, I think it's becoming more and more of a thing where guaranteed money is needed, or players are requiring it. And they are willing to now sit if they don't get what they think is worth. Like Tyreek Hill was willing to I don't know if he was willing to sit, but contracts talks stopped dead in the water in Kansas City because he saw what Devonta Adams got and he thought he was worth more. Mm-hmm. So these big name players, they're not taking home sweet home discounts anymore. No. They want their money. So NFL is going to get pretty interesting in the upcoming years, like with the whole cap thing. and how we're able to even afford players, because it just seems like every year we're negative $35 million in cap, our one team is, and all of a sudden they sign a guy to a $50 million contract, and you're like, I don't get it, but I mean, I'm not running the numbers, so.
Exactly. And I'm not going to act like I know anything about the cap. I'm very clueless when it comes to money and like this new money and guaranteed money and partially guaranteed money and all this stuff. It confuses me. And I don't like, people say the cap isn't real. Maybe it is. I have no idea. And the cap is supposed to keep going up the next few years like crazy because they're signing these big new TV deals or whatever. But I don't know. I do worry that the Dolphins could get themselves into money trouble because they've done it before. But then you see a team like the Saints who's at negative like $100 million in the cap, and they somehow make it out and had enough room to bring in Deshaun Watson and his massive contract. So I don't totally understand how it works, but for the most part, like you were talking about, like players complaining about money, it is kind of annoying. Listen, as a fan, it is a little bit annoying if a player is like, oh, I'm not going to play, and they'll have a new contract. As a fan, it is annoying. As a person, I'm like, hey, go get your money. You know, it's not my money. I'm not spending money on these players. But, you know, it is, you got to find that fine line of, you know, you want your team to be good and you want to have good players on cheap deals, but also you want your players to be, you know, to get what they deserve. But no, I do think this is a good re-signing for the Dolphins. I'm excited for this defense. I'm excited for this team. Excited for this division. I think this division is going to be really fun this year. Yeah, no,
I think the AFC is just shaping up to be really fun. You got the East with the Bills, which I've become a decent, you know, I get a lot of hate for it, but I'm kind of becoming a Bills fan. Not like they're, you know, of course, going to take over as my favorite team. But I love Josh Allen. I love what the Bills have been doing. They're getting a new stadium.
Yes.
A massive stadium. And then you got the Pats, as always. You got the Dolphins, who are making all these big name acquisitions, if I could speak. The Jets really haven't done a whole lot. But yeah, and then you got the AFC is at the West that just bulked up this year. And of course the North, you can't sleep on the North. And the South. The South kind of just, I mean, they were trying to make some big name, or they were paying out a lot of money to players that really didn't deserve it, in my opinion. But I mean, whatever that, yeah. But I think the AFC is gonna be a lot of fun this year. I feel like there's 8 or 9 Super Bowl contenders in the AFC, and maybe like 2 or 3 in the NFC.
That's fair. But why don't we move on to an NFC team, and it's the defending NFC champion and Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams signing Bobby Wagner. The 31-year-old linebacker, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks. He played in Seattle for, I don't even know how many years. I thought I had it written down, but he's played there for at least 10 years, I believe. He's got 8
like
Pro
10 or
Bowls.
11, I think.
Yeah, 10 or 11 years, 8 Pro Bowls, 6 first-team All-Pros. He won a Super Bowl. He's also the 2010s All-Decade team. So a phenomenal, one of the best linebackers of all time, signs a 5-year, $50 million contract. This seems like a big contract, 5 years, $50 million for a 31-year-old player. I haven't seen the contract info. They didn't really have it anywhere on Spotrac or Spotrac, however you say that. They don't have it in there yet, but I'm assuming this contract is not as big as it looks because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I feel like it'll be kind of like the Von Miller contract where it's like, it's a 5-year deal, but really it's a 2-year deal. But Mike, I'm excited to know your opinion on the Rams, a team that you've been critical of going the whole super team route. What are your thoughts on them bringing in Bobby Wagner?
Dude, the rich just get richer, Joe. I don't get how they're doing it. Signing Matthew Stafford. I mean, I guess they won the Super Bowl, so I don't know if they get like massive amounts of money for that. But, you know, they re-signed Matthew Stafford. They brought in Allen Robinson. Now they get Bobby Wagner, which, you know, I guess is going to replace Von Miller. I don't know. I guess I'm not as mad this year because really, like, they're the only good team in the NFC, so it's not like I feel like even if they don't sign Bobby Wagner, they were still like the best team in the NFC. So it's like, I mean, yeah, he helps, but not like a whole lot. But I don't know. I'm a big Bobby Wagner fan, so it's good to see him go somewhere and possibly have more success than with Seattle. Because Seattle, I don't know what they're trying to accomplish at the moment. So good for Bobby Wagner getting a deal, and I feel like that defense is just equally as scary as it was last year. So I really feel like they're already basically they have a clear path to the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, definitely. The NFC is so ravaged of talent this offseason, but I love the Bobby Wagner signing, and as long as it's not really genuinely a 5-year deal, which I just really doubt that it is. I'm sure there's team options and stuff at the end of that deal or whatever, but they filled essentially the biggest need on their defense, a very talented defense already. And they got Jalen Ramsey, they got Aaron Donald, and they have Leonard Floyd, guys like that all across that defense. And I think their biggest need was the off-ball linebacker. And to bring in Bobby Wagner, the best off-ball linebacker we've seen in the last decade, really. Bring him in, just have him be a leader, on that team and really coach up guys like, I believe it's Ernest Jones is the guy who played pretty well for the Rams there down the stretch at linebacker. Coach up a guy like that and just be a leader, be, just a solid player. Like, he still played really good last year. He had 170 combined tackles, which was one of the best in the league. So he's definitely not washed up. He's all over the place. He's definitely not what he used to be, but it's because he's getting older. Yeah. He's 31 at this point. I think he'll be 32 by the time the season starts. So I like the signing. I know it's kind of annoying. It is annoying. Like, I know when the Rams signed Allen Robinson, that's when I got kind of annoyed. I was like, come on, like, they can't sign everybody. The Bobby Wagner thing, I knew as soon as he was released by the Seahawks, I was like, I think I even messaged my buddy Joel the second it happened. I was like, they're going to sign, the Rams are going to sign Bobby Wagner. So I figured this would happen, and it did happen. And like he said, the rich get richer, and then, the rest of the team's got to pick up the scraps. But it doesn't always work to sign all the big names. It has worked for the Rams recently, but we'll have to see here down the stretch. But moving on to another NFC team, probably the second biggest contender in the NFC, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had some news break this week as Bruce Arians steps down as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, moving into a front office role as a senior advisor, which sounds like a completely fake title. That just means you get paid to sit in an office. I mean, come on. I think even Bruce Arians said himself, like, it's not even a real job. But he steps down. Todd Bowles, basically handpicked by Bruce Arians to be the new head coach. He signs a 5-year deal to be the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Initial thoughts on this. So I was kind of surprised, but also not like shocked. I think there was a lot of rumors that this was going to happen. Even last year, after they won the Super Bowl, I think there was rumors that he was going to retire. And there's a lot of rumors of beef between him and Brady. And Brady came in and basically said, I'm coming back, but Bruce can't be here. I'm curious, do you believe any of that? Mike, do you believe that there was beef between Brady and Arians, and that's why all this happened?
I feel like there might have been a bit of tension, but it's probably not because I wouldn't call it beef. I feel like Bruce just treated Tom Brady like, he's Tom Brady. He probably didn't give, kind of like the Belichick, I guess, method, where he didn't give him all the special attention. Like, hey, you're a player, but at the end of the day, you're just a player. You're not like something, super star or whatever, even though he is. I don't know if it's necessarily beef, but I feel like Bruce Arians just doesn't care who you are. Like, if you're not going to help the team win, then at the end of the day, you're out of here. So I don't know if Brady wanted him out, but I don't know how I feel about this one because, Todd Bowles has had prior coaching, and was he with the Jets? Was it with the Jets?
Yeah, he had a 24-40 record in 4 seasons with the Jets. Yeah.
So now I guess we'll have to see if he's gotten any better. I know he's a great defensive coach, but I don't know. I feel like with Tom Brady, of course, his record, I feel like the Bucs are gonna, at least have a winning season. But I don't know, Joe. I don't know how I feel about his coaching methods.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it's definitely interesting to see Todd Bowles on a team that is actually good. I think the Jets were kind of a mess when Todd Bowles was there. It'll be interesting to see Todd Bowles on a team that is actually built, a team that's ready to win, and not a team that's kind of like a mess. Like I said with the Jets, they were kind of a mess when he was there. So I think it'll be a good litmus test to see if Todd Bowles can actually coach. And as far as Bruce Arians goes, Bruce Arians in his career has an 89-51-1 career record. He's got 1 Super Bowl, 2 Coach of the Year awards. This guy has been, he's coached some of the best. He's coached some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Like Bruce Arians has coached teams that have Tom Brady. He's coached Peyton Manning. He's coached Carson Palmer. He's coached who else did he coach? He coached Big Ben Roethlisberger. So Bruce Arians has definitely had quite a coaching career. Honestly, kind of an underrated coaching career for Bruce Arians. I'm curious if he'll make the Hall of Fame one day. That would be an interesting thing to kind of go back and look at. Like he's had like 89 and 51 in his career. That's like a pretty good. He was really good on the Cardinals back when he was coaching the Cardinals as well.
Yeah.
And he took over for Chuck Pagano that one year in Indy and coached them up, I believe, to the playoffs. And that's when he won his first Coach of the Year. So to me, I don't know. I think he has a Hall of Fame case, especially with that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I genuinely like Bruce Arians as a coach. For the reason being, he just doesn't care who you are. Like he wants the best for the team. And yeah, like you said, he's had prior success with Indianapolis, with Arizona, and now with Tampa Bay. So I'm curious how much say he's going to have, like what kind of role he's going to have in the team. I know he said he kind of has his own made up role, but I wonder how much like influence he's going to have on the coaching staff and what they do. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all pans out though.
Absolutely. And it'll be an interesting season for the Buccaneers. And cheers to Bruce Arians on essentially a retirement, but with a different name to it. Just a quick heads up for those listening. If all of a sudden it seems like there's a few moments where things are a little bit off in this show, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so just bear with us. If all of a sudden it seems like I'm kind of trailing off and like I don't know, like it's like, why is Joe talking a little bit different? We've had some technical difficulties, so just bear with us there. I feel like we've done a pretty killer job so far.
I feel like we filled that in very well.
Yeah, I think so. But on to the next article of news in this news roundup episode. The NFL, the owners' meetings were this week. The owners were meeting in Florida, and they announced a rule change. This is the time for rule changes at these owners' meetings. And the biggest news, essentially, to come out of the owners' meetings is the NFL has officially changed the overtime rule. There's been just so much talk about it since the end of the season, since we saw the Buffalo Bills lose to the Kansas City Chiefs on the first possession there of overtime in one of the greatest football games we've ever witnessed. We heard this just for months about the OT rule being changed, and now they officially change it for the postseason only. So it stays the same during the regular season, but during the postseason, both teams now will get a chance to win or to possess the ball. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe after that, it's sudden death, right? After both teams get possession, it is sudden death.
Yeah, like next score wins, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this rule change? Do you like it? Do you think that they should have just kept it the way it was? I believe I saw Mike Tomlin even wanted this go back to the old way where it was just sudden death, like even field goals. I don't like that idea. But what are your thoughts on the new overtime in the postseason?
I don't know. I'm gonna say I don't like it.
Really?
And here's why. Because basically what you're saying is your defense now doesn't have to show up to play. For the first two drives of overtime. That's why I like the old rule. Like everyone complains like, well, now both teams will get a chance. Like, we got robbed. I was like, no, you didn't get robbed. Like if your defense, we'll just use the example of if the Bills, the number one ranked defense, I think last year, would have held up for 13 seconds, they win the game. But then they had a whole drive in overtime to stop the Chiefs, and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So now you're basically just saying, hey, you don't need defense. Your offense will get a chance. So I don't like it in that aspect because we watched the Bills lose, but then also we watched the Bengals beat the Chiefs in overtime, playing good defense. They got the pick, they went down and I believe kicked a field goal and won the game. I would have much rather. I saw one where it's like first team to get the ball has to score a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to win the game on the spot. If they don't, the next team will get the ball. If they score a touchdown and a field goal, it's over. So that'd be cool. I would have rather 8 points wins the game on the first drive.
I do think that's I almost didn't even really think about what you're saying. I do think that's a really good point that you made. This is like people complaining that, oh, both teams didn't get a chance. It's like there are two aspects to football. Like there's offense and there's defense. You did have a chance. Your defense did not make plays. And that's a good point you make about the Bills being one of the best defenses in the NFL. And absolutely, they had 13 seconds and then they had, overtime. And I do agree with that 100%. And I like this rule. And it's more for entertainment purposes for the fans. That's the main reason why I like it, is because now we get a chance to see Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And I respect that you don't like this rule, even though you have said time and time again that Josh Allen was the best quarterback in the NFL during that time. You can kind of see it in a level-headed way where it's like, okay, but like they didn't get robbed or whatever. And I do like that. But I do also
appreciate that.
As a fan, I like having the ability to see both quarterbacks, but I do think we're still going to run into the same issues. Like, let's say we have that same game and Patrick Mahomes scores first, and then Josh Allen goes and scores a touchdown, and then Patrick Mahomes scores a touchdown, and then, okay, they won. Like, it's the same issue. Like, now people are going to blame, the Bills didn't get another chance. And it's like, it's the same problem.
Joe, we're going to run into it's going to get to the point where we're going to have 3 quarters of each team gets 15 possessions, and whoever has the most points after that wins.
Yeah. Here's my idea. This is an idea just for postseason. I know that they want to keep the games as short as possible, but just for postseason, this was my idea for an overtime. And I thought about this week. I like the whole aspect of time being really important to a football game. Yeah. So I would love to have just 10-minute quarter, 1 10-minute quarter. You play out the whole quarter, the whole overtime. You play it out. I think that would make for some really, really exciting football. Like at the end, you're down by a field goal, and you got to make some big plays with a couple seconds left. I think that would be where I would go for postseason. Just play an entire timed 10-minute quarter.
I like that. I feel like I don't get why they didn't do that. I know, like you said, time is a thing, but when it gets to the playoffs, if you're going to tell me some fan's going to turn off the TV because the game's taking too long, I can tell you that's not true. If we would have had an extra 10 minutes of the Chiefs-Bills game, even the Chiefs-Bengals game, I would have been, sign me up, I'm in.
Absolutely.
I feel like they fixed a rule, but they did it in the wrong way. It's okay, they heard what we wanted, they did it, but it's it'll be interesting. Hopefully, maybe if all of a sudden it backfires, it's postseason only. So maybe they'll change it again. I don't know. I would have just liked to have seen it stay because now certain teams got screwed over and certain teams didn't. Whatever. But I feel like you said, it's just going to cause more problems after the first team who got the ball goes down on the third possession or second possession and scores and wins the game.
Yeah, I feel I just think we're going to run into the same issues. People are going to complain again when Patrick Mahomes scores on the third possession and Josh Allen doesn't get a fourth possession. I feel like the whole 10-minute thing could fix that. You just have time and that's it. Sorry, you ran out of time. You just that's and then you have to I think the Patriots would be killer at that because they're always very good at time management. They're really good at these long methodical drives. And if you come out, a 7-minute drive in overtime and score a touchdown, that kills the other team. I just think that would add a really super, interesting aspect to overtime. But you also had a really interesting question that you brought up when we were talking about this rule being changed. Do you want to just say what that question was, and when we can discuss it a little bit?
Are you talking about what other rules we should add or take away?
Yeah.
I wrote down a few. I was thinking about it this week. I heard something on Pat McAfee show and I was like, that'd be something that'd be fun to talk about. What rules outside of the overtime rule would you like to see changed, taken away, added? Number one, of course, I can guarantee you're going to agree with this, but I say get rid of the taunt rule. Taunting needs to go out the window, 100%. But one I have that I don't know, I know there's one of them. I have 2 of them, so I'll tell you both of mine. Add points on kickoffs. So basically, if you kick off, goes through the uprights, it's 1 point.
Okay.
I'm in to see that 100%.
That's CFL.
Yeah. Think about it. It would just be so fun seeing kickers kick the tar out of the ball. If it goes through, you're up 1 point now, right?
Okay.
Also, why can punters punt the ball out of bounds at the 1 yard line or do their best, but kickers get penalized 40 yards on kickoffs. Like if they would kick it out of bounds at the 1 or 2 and pin your team all the way back, oh no, you're now at the 40. You know, I don't really understand that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't. Maybe somebody smarter than me could explain to me why that's a rule. I do think that would definitely add an interesting aspect if you couldn't, or if you couldn't punt a punt out of bounds, or if it's the other way around where you couldn't, or you would have to keep the. I don't even know where. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But you could punt, or you could do a kickoff out of bounds. Like what if you do a kickoff and you kick it to the 1 yard line? That'd be kind of interesting aspect of that. But yeah, no, those are cool ideas for rule changes. The taunting rule for sure. Get that thing out of my life. I know there's this stupid touchback rule where if you're diving into the end zone and the ball fumbles and it goes out and it's a touchback for the other team, that's a stupid rule to me too. That's really dumb. I think that's rewarding. I know it's like a forced fumble, but like the team didn't actually get a turnover. They shouldn't get the ball back. Like if anything, it should be a touchback. But the team that like lost possession, I feel like should or the team that fumbled should just get the ball at the 20 yard line. So then if it's third down, now it's like 4th and 20 from like their own 20 yard line. Like exactly. That to me makes sense. 100%.
I was literally waiting for you to finish. I was gonna be like, that's it right there.
Yeah, because that's really crippling as well. It's almost worse like than having your opponent like, no, I guess not worse, but like anyways, another rule I thought, not really a rule, but just sort of a pet peeve that I've had. Why is holding a 10-yard penalty? Like why can we not make holding a 5-yard penalty? Like I don't understand why it has to be like if you get a holding call on first down, like you basically cripple your drive. Like it's 1st and 20. Like I've always thought it's so dumb that holding is a 10-yard penalty. It's not like it's a dirty play. Like you're not like hurting people for the most part on holding plays, and it's a ticky-tack foul. Like it's something you see basically on every single play. There's holding. Like I don't understand why holding is such a devastating penalty. That's one thing I'd like to see change.
See, this is what I don't get. On offense, if you're caught holding, it's a 10-yard penalty. Mm-hmm. If the defense is caught holding, it's a 5-yard penalty and it's an automatic first down.
Yeah, I don't get the like, automatic first down thing is stupid too.
Take away the automatic first down and just make holding 5 yards both ways. Like,
yes, thank you.
100%. Like
I did not even think about that on the defense. That's hilarious.
Because if you think about it, if you can't say, well, what if they throw the ball 20 yards down the field and it's a holding? Like, well, then it's pass interference. It's not holding at that point.
Exactly. Exactly.
So then it's like you're not gonna just. It's not like you're only getting 5 yards when you should have gotten 20. Like no. At that point, it's pass interference. It's down up there. Which we could even say, why is pass interference? Like a spot foul. Which. I like that it's a spot foul because if you're 15, 20 yards down the field and that's when it occurs, like, okay, that's where it happened. Not like, 5 yards, here you go. Like, no. He was doing it 20 yards down the field, bro.
Yeah. Well, how often do you see a guy like bomb a ball 40 yards downfield and there's a holding on that? Like, that doesn't happen. Like, that's pass interference. No. Holding always happens like within like 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
5 yards or 10 yards.
Yeah. Like, it's, I agree with that 100%. Like, it should just be 5 yards both sides, and not an automatic first down. I think that happened. Did that not happen in the Super Bowl? A defensive holding that gave the Rams an automatic first down, or was that it might have been a pass interference? Yeah. I think it was a defensive holding.
Who?
It was Eli Apple, wasn't it? I believe it was Eli Apple. Mike has cut it. His video is cutting out. So if all of a sudden this part of the episode is a little chaotic, I apologize for that. We're having more technical difficulties. We'll get him back on the call here. Mike, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I now can cut out again.
All right, he's back. Sorry, guys. We're just having some technical difficulties. But we were talking, I believe it was Eli Apple who got that defensive holding. And it gave the Rams a first down, and that was really controversial. Yep. Yeah, I do think that's a silly rule.
I think it's just dumb. I think there's a lot of rules that need to be re-looked over. I think Roger Goodell said taunting was staying, though. So he apparently had claimed they only missed 4 all year last year. And I was like, good night. Here we go. Like, it's...
Well, did you see like the Tyreek Hill in the Bills game when he gave the peace sign? Like, that should have been a taunting call, and they just totally didn't call it. So it's like, why aren't you calling it there?
Another one that got me, which we don't necessarily need to change the rules for this, but I think it was the Pats Titans this year. I forget who they were playing. Mac Jones was running out of bounds, and the defender was right behind him. And, he goes out of bounds. He's like 3-4 yards out of bounds, and the defender grabs him, I guess trying to stop him, but in the action pulled him to the ground. And they threw 2 flags. I was like, yep, Mac Jones running the other sideline, pointing first down, like, we're going to get some yards. And they take the flag away. And then they get the Patriots for taunting in the huddle or something. And we ended up losing like 40 yards when we should have gained like 20 or 30 yards. I think just in general, we need to change the refs. I think the refs need to be held more accountable or something, because last year the refs were awful.
Yeah. Got to get the sky judge like we talked about last season. Bring in the sky judge. Anyway, unless you have more rules that you'd like to change, we'll move on.
That's all I got, Joe.
Very good. We're going to talk about a little Lions talk, and then we'll get into some free agent news. And Mike, I know that you have plans, so if all of a sudden you got to go, just let me know, and I'll wrap up the show by myself. But you can stay for as long as you want. But a little Lions talk. The Detroit Lions officially on Hard Knocks this year. We'll be following the Detroit Lions on Hard Knocks for the preseason, for training camp. I'm fired up about this, Mike. I don't know about you.
Dude, I get to see MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell, eating kneecaps live on TV, Joe. I mean, I saw a poll like who's going to be the star of the show, and I was like, the fact that you have to ask that question is utterly stupid. And Jared Goff was one of the options. I was like, no. Dan Campbell is absolutely going to just be the star, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like, he is going to, like, we're going to see a side of him that I don't know if we've ever seen, and it's going to get intense, Joe. I feel like he's going to be just all over the place.
Absolutely. I saw a lot of people hating on this, like, oh, this is boring. Why would we want this? I was like, this is one of the best teams for me. I'm loving the fact that it's the Lions. Like, you're not going to get a Super Bowl contender on Hard Knocks. You never do. Like, it's just not a thing. Like, there are literal rules that bad teams get on Hard Knocks. There's rules in place. Like, you can't have made the playoffs in the last 2 years. You can't have a new coach. And sometimes teams will waive that, like the Cowboys did last year. But, like, we always get bad teams. And to me, one of the most entertaining bad teams is the Lions, because I think they're going in the right direction. And I think they have some 100%. Some young, talented players. Like, I think this gives us a chance, like, to learn about some of the players. Like, we don't know much about the Lions, but they have some players I think that we could benefit from learning more about. Like, guys like DeAndre Swift, guys like TJ Hawkinson, who's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And then, what's going on with Jeffrey Okudah? He's been injured for the last couple of years. And then there's Amon-Ra St. Brown, was one of the best rookie wide receivers last year. I'm super excited to see like what he's all about. I don't know a whole lot about him as like a person. And then like their O-line, see like what Penei Sewell's all about, and like Taylor Decker, and like Frank Ragnow played last year with like a fractured throat. Like, that sounds like an entertaining guy to me. So to me, and I hope, Mike, I hope they draft a rookie quarterback so that we can see some quarterback competition between Jared Goff and like Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder or one of these. To me, that would add a whole nother layer of entertainment to this Hard Knocks.
Dude, I can just see Dan Campbell like ripping Jared Goff a new one, and just telling him how the rookie quarterback is just, dude, you just lost your job. And like Dan Campbell is also one of the most emotional coaches. I feel like if there's anything he cares about, it's his team and winning. Absolutely. And he wants to see his team succeed. And they were like 4 or 5 games away. Or they were down, like there were 4 or 5 games where they could have won in the final seconds, but just kind of got, the bad end of the unlucky breaks. So they could have had a decent run last year. So like you said, they're a team we really don't know much about. And I feel like they are moving in the right direction. And I'm just as excited as you are to see what they do this offseason. I know you asked me a question leading up to this podcast, kind of like some teams or players or docuseries we would like to see from other teams and players.
Yes.
And Joe, I'm curious, like who or which teams you wrote down.
Yeah, we were talking about how I love Hard Knocks. I think you love Hard Knocks and stuff like that. And I don't know if you ever watched The Last Dance.
America's Game. Last Dance, I saw it, yes.
Yeah, Last Dance was awesome. I kind of thought of The Last Dance more so when I thought about this. But yeah, what other teams throughout history or wherever you want to take it, players or like specific players, or to me, I took it as what team, and I only have like two, so I don't have a lot, but what team or teams would you love to have seen like a full season like docu-series about, kind of like The Last Dance or like Hard Knocks with the Colts last year during the season? And to me, one of the most entertaining teams I think possible that you could have had was the 2020 to 2021 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To me, that is the team I think would have been the most entertaining docu-series like you could possibly imagine. Like, so they won the Super Bowl. That's one thing that would make it very entertaining. And then let me just list off the players and the coaches that would be entertaining. Like, you got Tom Brady, obviously, Bruce Arians, who's, I think, a nut sometimes. Then you got Gronk. Then you got Ndamukong Suh, JPP, Vita Vea, Leonard Fournette, and then Shady McCoy was on that team. We don't even remember that. I know he didn't really play, but it'd be interesting to see him on that team. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I think Jason Light, their GM, is kind of like a wild card. He's kind of like a funny guy sometimes. And then halfway through the season, they add Antonio Brown to the mix. So complete chaos. Like, what it would have been like to see what's going on in that locker room. And you always hear from that season, players are like, when Tom Brady came in, he completely changed the culture. I would love to see how Tom Brady did that. How did he change the culture? How did he get the winning ways out of them? How did he change the vibe within that locker room? Just stuff like that. I would just love to see, and then you have to deal with all the COVID-19 issues as well. Yep. And then they won the Super Bowl in their hometown, the first team ever. So to me, that team, I would love to have seen a docuseries about the 2020-2021 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, Joe, that's true. Also, instead of just ending it there, go one more season to where we can see Antonio Brown's the fallout of Antonio Brown and the collapse in the playoffs, how you go from so high to just so low, and then Brady retires, just keep it going. Now that's pure entertainment right there, to be fair. I would have been 100% down to watch that.
Absolutely.
One I wrote down, this is, of course, I wouldn't want to see it today. This would be back in 2017. I would have loved to have seen it, but it's the 2016 Falcons. A team that was utterly dominant. A team that, no one really thought was going to get there. They had Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. They had a really, an unbelievable defense. And they just go on this awesome run. I believe they finished 11-5, first in the division. They get all the way to the Super Bowl and then have the greatest Super Bowl collapse anyone has ever seen. And I hate to keep bringing it up because I'm a Pats fan.
Patriots fan.
Yeah. They're up 28-3. And not because I want to laugh, but I want to know what happened and why they decided to run the ball 4 times in the second half, being up 28-3. Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator. Dan Quinn, head coach. I would like to go in depth and I would like to understand what happened what happened in that game. What happened, what led up to them deciding to do this. They had plenty of success in the first half, and to have it all just disappear and blow up in their face is just something I've always wondered. I've always wanted to see.
Yes. And their reactions, how do you even react to that devastating loss? That would definitely be a very sad ending to that documentary for sure. That's a really good pick. I love that pick. That would be definitely a depressing ending to that documentary.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick, I got one more. This is kind of just a wild card, a weird one. I was trying to think of Dolphins teams throughout the years that I would love to see, just because I'm a Dolphins fan. I thought of the 2017 Miami Dolphins, and hear me out.
Okay.
There's a specific reason. This is the year Ryan Tannehill tears his ACL in training camp. So who comes walking through the door other than Jay Cutler to come and play quarterback out of nowhere for the Miami Dolphins, a team that's trying to make it back to the playoffs? They made the playoffs the year before. You have Adam Gase, who's a complete nutcase. You bring in Jay Cutler, who I don't know if he has a podcast. I've seen him on other podcasts. He seems like a very entertaining guy. have him come in. And then, him and Adam Gase, that relationship. Halfway through the season, they trade Jay Ajayi to the Eagles. That's definitely
that's right.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. And then also, they have a 3-game winning streak at the beginning of the season. So they're 4-2. And then they have a 5-game losing streak right after that 3-game winning streak. So just brutal, just ups and downs. And then they have that insane, I remember the Monday Night Football game where Jay Cutler balls out against the Patriots. Jakeem Grant mosses Malcolm Butler, like just a weird game out of nowhere where they beat the Patriots. And also the last game of the season, they have an all-out brawl with the Buffalo Bills where I think Kenyon Drake rips off a Buffalo Bills player's helmet. I feel like the pure chaos of that season would be incredible to see it in a docuseries. And now the more I say it, the more I absolutely want that. And I might go back and just watch that season just on my own time.
Joe, that's a good one. To follow up with that, I might as well go with a Pats docuseries. And it was a 2017-2018 season. Brady's last year in New England. They started the season 9-1. If I'm wrong, it was either 9-1 or 8-2. And they finished as a wild card team and lost the first game. They were the first team out of the playoffs to Tennessee Titans after putting up 13 points in the playoffs. Yeah. I would have loved to see, not just for football related reasons, like why they got rid of some players and the acquisitions they got that year, but the rift. I've always wondered that, you hear all the media about Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Robert Kraft.
Yes.
I would love to have a docuseries on when the rift started. And if there's an actual rift, if they actually hate each other, which I think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady just despise each other. But I would just love to go in depth on what the heck happened. Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded. And Robert Kraft basically forced that trade because Bill Belichick tried to get rid of Tom Brady. And it was just this, I would love to just know what went on behind the scenes that we're not, none of us know about,
Yes. I'm sure that would have a lot more interest from everybody else than my 2017 Dolphins. But definitely, that'd be a very entertaining just to see the behind the scenes of all that drama and everything. 100%.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, I got to run. Me and my wife are heading out of town. Right. Sorry to jump out of the podcast early to all the fans out there, but I know it's in good hands. Joe's going to finish this thing off with a bang.
Yes, I got it.
So, guys, I can't wait for the next one. We will definitely see y'all in the next one.
Yeah, man. See you, Mike. Thanks for joining us, and I'll close it out strong by myself. Just one more segment, just talking about best free agent signings that we would love to see here. So goodbye to Mike and hello to just me. It's just me on the end of this podcast, just like old times. Love talking about the docuseries segment. That was really fun. I'm sure I'm basically the only one in the world that would love to see a 2017 Miami Dolphins docuseries. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would be so fun to see Jay Cutler come in. He was living in a hotel at that point, just to see that whole thing. And then, just the chaos of it, Jay Ajayi being traded and just the huge brawl with the Bills at the end of the season and that win on Monday Night Football. It's just the highs and the lows, a 3-game winning streak. You're 4-2, then you drop 5 in a row, and it's just a complete disaster and just basically an average Miami Dolphins season for me. But anyways, moving on to the final segment. Best free agent fits for some of the remaining free agents. And we're recording this on Saturday. This will probably go up on Monday or Tuesday. So these guys might be signed by now, but I have a few that I would just like to see here to close out the show. There's still some good names left. Most of the big names are gone now. And we're kind of shifting into draft mode. We might talk draft in the future on this podcast, but there's a couple free agents remaining. I just wanted to, just see signings that talk about signings that I'd like to see with the remaining guys in the free agency pool. First up, we have Tyrann Mathieu, and I was hoping to get Mike on this part of the podcast because I was going to talk about Tyrann Mathieu to the Patriots. To me, makes a ton of sense, and I know they just went out and they signed Jabril Peppers from the Giants, and I do like that signing, sort of a versatile. A guy who hasn't quite figured it all out. He has played well at times in his career, but just getting the best out of him is what I think Bill Belichick is has the ability to do. And to have Tyrann Mathieu, I know he's not the same guy he used to be. I believe he's 30, 29, something like that now. So he's getting older. And he's not really even a safety anymore. He's more of a nickel corner. But just have a guy who's kind of versatile, who comes into a team that's in desperate need of corners. They lost J.C. Jackson. They don't have Stefan Gilmore there anymore. Bring in Tyrann Mathieu to a team with Bill Belichick, who I think gets the best out of players in the secondary. He gets the best out of players like J.C. Jackson, I believe was undrafted. I could be wrong. I think he was maybe a late round pick, but not a huge, first round, selection. Got the best out of him. He got paid. He was one of the best corners in the league last year, in the last couple of years. Stefan Gilmore, he was good in Buffalo, but Bill Belichick in that defensive scheme kind of turned him into the best defensive back in the NFL and defensive player of the year. So to bring Tyrann Mathieu, a guy with a ton of talent, a ton of smarts, like this is a move I do not want to see because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. For selfish reasons, I do not want to see the Honey Badger on the Patriots. But this is what the Patriots do. They sit in waiting. They wait for, the first wave of free agency to pass, and then they pick up these guys that you're like, oh my goodness, no, how did we let them go and get this guy? And I can just see that happening here with the Honey Badger. I think that he would absolutely thrive and be kind of that leader of that defense that they maybe lost with Dont'a Hightower, who's still available, but I don't know if he's still going to be playing, in this season or into the future. It seems like they're kind of done with Dont'a Hightower. But definitely the Honey Badger to the Patriots is a very, very intriguing signing. And I think it would make the Patriots a really, really spicy team. And I think that would be a really good fit for Tyrann Mathieu. And then on to the next one. I would love to see Dwayne Brown, the tackle, formerly of the Seahawks and the Texans. He's still available. He's still a solid tackle. I'd love to see him sign with the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team they just brought in Matt Ryan. He's a guy who, obviously, like every other quarterback, he thrives best when he's got good protection. And he played really, really well last year when he was protected well. The biggest problem was he was hardly ever protected well in Atlanta. Their offensive line fell apart at times last year. I know there was a primetime game. I think it was against the Patriots. Yeah, I think it was against the Patriots where, that offensive line struggled so bad. The Patriots just kind of had their way with Matt Ryan, and he struggled and looked bad, and you could tell he was just frustrated. So to me, you're bringing in Matt Ryan. You want to get the best out of him. Just protect him. Get him protection. I think they already have pieces on that offensive line, but Eric Fisher's no longer there. I think tackle is still a need for them. So bring in Dwayne Brown, fill that tackle position, get Matt Ryan protection. And then on to the next guy I have on my list, and it's Stefan Gilmore. We just talked about him being the former defensive player of the year for the New England Patriots. Stefan Gilmore, I would love to see him on the Las Vegas Raiders. This actually makes a ton of sense if you think about it. Josh McDaniels, formerly the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, so he was there when Stefan Gilmore was winning the Defensive Player of the Year and dominating in the NFL. Bring him in. He played all right last year. He's not the same guy. Obviously, he's getting a little older. But the Raiders are in desperate need of corners. Their defense, I still think, has a lot to be, a lot that needs to be fixed. They did bring in Rock Ya-Sin. Bring in, a veteran cornerback to help coach up Rock Ya-Sin, a younger cornerback who they got for Yannick Ngakoue. By the way, Yannick Ngakoue for Rock Ya-Sin, that trade, maybe the craziest names to ever be traded for each other in any sport ever. Yannick Ngakoue and Rock Ya-Sin. That is an unbelievable name. Just this jumble of names. Just incredible. But also incredible is Stefan Gilmore when he's playing at his peak. And him on the Raiders, I think he would just do an incredible job of just being that leader, just kind of coaching up, like I said, a guy like Rock Ya-Sin. I just like saying Rock Ya-Sin at this point, and just being that leader and that the Raiders really need. They have some young, talented players there, but just to bring in that vet and a guy who still, I think, can play at a high level, bring him in on a cheap deal and have him reunite with Josh McDaniels and a lot of that Patriot staff that was there in New England when Stefan Gilmore was there. And then to close it out, I got a couple, 3 receivers that are still on the market. Still some decent receivers on the market. I think it has to do with the fact that there's a million really good receivers in the draft. I love the draft receivers. And also every receiver is just getting traded for and brand new huge contracts. But there's three receivers that intrigue me, and that's the two former teammates, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham. And then there's Julio Jones, one of the greatest receivers of all time, one of the greatest, if not the greatest receiver of this generation. He's still on the board. So Julio Jones, I would love to see him go to the Green Bay Packers. And I know Julio Jones didn't have a great year last year with the Titans, and it was a massive disappointment. Only scored a touchdown, I think, in the last game of the season. But if he was gonna have another season, to bounce back, a bounce back season, what better place than in Green Bay? Green Bay, you got Aaron Rodgers, who's great at making receivers, look better, and I think he could kind of play the same role that a guy like Devontae Adams plays. Obviously, at a much lesser level right now because of his age. I think that would definitely be the case. But I would love to see if he can have a bounce back year. Can it be with the Green Bay Packers? And they just need help at the wide receiver position. They just need help. They have nothing right now at the wide receiver position. So bring in Julio Jones. And then Odell Beckham Jr. I just had a signing for the Colts just a few ago. Here's another one. Bring in Odell Beckham Jr. The Colts are another team. They don't have a whole lot at receiver. Michael Pittman I really like, but other than that, they're not deep at receiver at all. They need receivers. I definitely think they'll pick up a receiver at some point in this draft. They don't have a first-round pick, so maybe in the second round. And I think there'll still be a lot of really good receivers available then. But bring in Odell Beckham. You don't need him. And he's got that, torn Achilles, I believe. Oh, no, I think it was an ACL. He tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. You don't need him right away. You can have him sit, get healthy. And then when you get into that playoff run, that late, December area where January, where you need to make those big games, you bring in Odell Beckham, and he's just a talented receiver. He immediately becomes, the second, maybe even first receiver on your team. You can pair him with Michael Pittman. I just think that would be a real nice add and a guy that could just make a difference down the stretch. Like we saw with the Rams. He made a huge difference down the stretch with the Los Angeles Rams. I think he could do very similar things for a team that I think is really expecting to compete this year in the Indianapolis Colts. So that's definitely another signing I'd like to see. And then just one more to end it off. People say ending things off with a bang. This is maybe not ending things off with a bang, but Jarvis Landry still available. He's a guy that I really like, and I wouldn't mind seeing him on the Dolphins, but I tried to leave the Dolphins out of it. I don't want to talk just about the Dolphins all the time. This is an NFL podcast, not a Miami Dolphins podcast. I'd love to see Jarvis Landry sign with the Chicago Bears, and it's because Justin Fields has, he didn't have a whole lot of help last year. He had Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney's okay. Matt Nagy was bad, but get the guy some help. Get the young kid some help. Bring in a receiver who, he's not flashy. He's getting up there in age, but he's a savvy veteran. He can help coach up, Justin Fields. Get the best out of him. I'm really high on Justin Fields. I think bring in a guy who can just make a tough catch. You just need a bucket. Like they say in the NBA, get you a guy who can just get you a bucket. Get you a guy who can just, on fourth and 4, on 3rd and 5. Get you a guy who can get those 7 yards on 3rd and 5. Get those 6 yards on 3rd and 4. Just, he's not going to beat anybody deep, but he's got tremendous hands and just a consistent safety blanket for a guy like Justin Fields. Bring him in and he's probably the best receiver on their team because they have nothing at wide receiver right now. Right now, their top 3 wide receivers are the aforementioned Darnell Mooney, who's a fine receiver. I think he can get better. But then you have Byron Pringle, who they brought in from the Chiefs, he's all right. Listen, he's nothing to write home about. And then their third receiver is Equanimeous St. Brown, who's not even the best St. Brown brother in the NFL. He's a guy who couldn't hack it on the Green Bay Packers, who are constantly looking for better receivers. He could not hack it on that team. But yeah, definitely seeing Jarvis Landry on the Chicago Bears would be entertaining. But that's pretty much going to wrap up today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed. I said a little bit of a shorter episode. It's not too short. It's still decently long. Excited to be back again, like I said last week. And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, as Mike's putting out some fire content on TikTok at _average Joe show. Make sure you guys follow it there. Drop some comments. Make sure you get on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Podbean or wherever you listen to this podcast. Please, 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 come on, please give us a 5-star rating. Don't make me beg anymore. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review if you love the show. If you hate the show, write something mean, but still give us 5 stars. I don't care. Just give us the 5 stars. They'll never know. Give us the 5 stars. It helps us gain traction. And just continue to download and subscribe to the podcast. If you subscribe, it automatically downloads it for you when the podcast gets uploaded. So easy. Makes life so easy. But yeah, I guess that's gonna wrap up today's show. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode. Really fun episode. I had a good time. For Mike, who is already out the door at his place, for myself, and for you guys, we will catch you guys on the next one.